Does your post-processing after a shoot feel overwhelming? I'll break it down and show you my editing workflow on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. Today's question was sent in by John C., and he wants to know, I shoot sports and I'm looking for workflow help. I use Photomechanic and have all the other apps, but I'm confused trying to do batch editing and noise reduction. Can you give me an editing walkthrough from start to finish? Thanks, John, for sending that in. I do certainly appreciate it. So here's the dirty little secret about professional photography. Actually taking the pictures is only part of the job. Depending on the type of photography you do, you could spend anywhere from 1 to 5 hours in post-processing for every hour that you photographed. The camera manufacturers have done a great job giving us these incredible tools to capture light, but then you need to spend the time afterward to make sure those images look exactly how you want them to. Now, obviously, there are as many different ways to do this as there are photographers, but I've been working professionally for decades now and have developed a system that works for me and my clients. Now, John isn't the only one who has asked me about workflow, so this seems like a good opportunity to go through it. Now, I don't expect anyone to change theirs to match mine exactly 100%, but hopefully you'll pick up some tips and tricks along the way. Now, I've already done a video about the first part of this process. That's how I copy my files to the computer, get them organized, and then cull through them using Photomechanic. It's a 30-minute video just on its own, so I'm not going to rehash it here. I'll put a link down in the description, and if you can go back and check that out if you haven't seen it already. So now, first thing to point out is that I don't use Lightroom. I use Capture One. The programs are very similar in that they both are used to edit RAW files. I chose Capture One when Apple stopped development on their program Aperture. I was actually a member of the advisory board for that program, and I certainly did love it. I'm still kind of bummed that they killed it off. Why'd you do that to us, Apple? But when I did switch, I found that Capture One was the most similar to Aperture. I also really love the quality of its RAW conversions and a few other features that I'll show you. Now, I use it in catalog mode instead of sessions, which are primarily made for tethering. That means I also use it to organize my images in albums. Now, I primarily cover concerts, and you might know I'm currently Luke Combs' full-time tour photographer. I covered sports for many years, and I still photograph concerts the same way that I did sports. That means I shoot thousands of images every single night. In that Photomechanic video, I showed how I make multiple passes to whittle down my work until I get to the best of the best. I might shoot 4,000 or 5,000 images because I so often shoot bursts to make sure that I get the best possible moments. The final number of images that I actually deliver depends on what you shoot. For a portrait session, I might have 5 images, but for one of my concerts, I usually have between 75 and 150. Either way, after I go through that culling process, I'm left with what I call my raw finals. Now, I keep that in a nicely organized folder with everything from that particular show. I talked about that in that video. For this demo, I'm just going to keep that raw finals folder on my desktop and work from that. Now, those raw finals are the only images that are going to go into Capture One. You really don't want to bring thousands of images into Lightroom or Capture One because it's going to bog down the program after a while. And the reality is you don't need 95% of those images. Every photo I have in my Capture One catalog is hopefully a good one. It also makes it easy to find something later on and allows me to have local access to all of those images without having to download them from my server. Okay, so let's fire up the program on the computer and I'm going to show you what I do. Here is my Capture One library. This is my actual Luke Combs library. I have separate libraries for different things. I have a general library for a bunch of other assignments. I have other libraries for other things. This is my Luke Combs library. So if you look here, you can see I've got a Luke Combs folder and then a bunch of folders by year. Within each year, I have all of the shoots from that year. So if you watched my other video, you know that I organize everything with year, month, day, 8 digits, so that when I alphabetize them, when I do them by alphabetically, they sort by chronologically, which is awesome. So I've got everything here from 2025 right in that one folder. So a couple other things to point out. One of the things I love about Capture One is that you can really customize everything how you want. So at the top here, I only have what I absolutely need. So I've got only these 3 tabs right here: Library, Adjust, and Metadata. You can have other tabs if you need them. If I need something else that's in another tab that isn't on there, I can always go in and pull it if I want to. But 99.99999% of the time, everything I have is in here, because then you can customize also what's in each one. So in my library, that's all of my folders, and so I can get to my images. Adjust is all of my adjustments. I'll talk about that in a second. And then metadata is all of the IPTC data and all of that data, keywords and things like that are on the images. Now, I've already done that in Photomechanic, so the captions and all of that stuff is already in my raw files, which is really, really nice. So what I'll do here with a new assignment, let's do a fake assignment. I pulled a bunch of images from Lollapalooza this year, Luke Combs' first country headliner of Lollapalooza. It was pretty awesome. So I'm going to go here and select 2025. I'm going to control click on there. I'm sorry, I don't know what the PC equivalencies are key-wise, but y'all can figure it out, I'm sure. On a Mac, it's control click, new inside 2025, new album. Let's just create one. I'll call it 2025-12/31. It's the last day of the year. And we'll just call it Ask DB Demo. I always have select collection after creation, because that, when I hit OK, it brings me right into that new album automatically. I'm going to go ahead and click Import. And here is that folder of raw finals. There's 100 images in here. Now, something that I do is I apply an adjustment on import. I have a Luke preset adjustment, which I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to turn that off for now, actually, just so we don't get confused. Actually, let's see. I don't even know how to do that. There we go. Remove. So that's not going to happen, and I'll show you why I do that in a minute. So let's go ahead and import all. It brings in these images. There are no adjustments on these. I do like to apply that on import, but again, I'm not doing it in this case. So if we go ahead and pick a picture at random, let's pull one up here. Let's go with this one. Okay, so that's Luke and his wife Nicole walking to the stage. So what I will do at this point is I'm going to go through these images one at a time and tone them up. Usually before that, what I like to do is my star ratings, at least the first round of star ratings. And what I do is, the way I do my stars is anything that's a 2-star or higher is going to get delivered to the client. I will rate my better pictures 3 and 4 stars and 5 stars if I have them. But before I do that, I start out by highlighting everything and making everything a 2. I just hit the number 2. It makes everything a 2-star, okay? If I have a picture that I don't want to deliver to management, like friends of mine are at the show and I took their picture and I don't, management doesn't need that, I will go through real quick and just glance at them. I know it's here. So in this case, I know that there are none. But if there was something, for example, I could just click it, make it a 1-star, and then I know that's not going to get delivered to management, because I'm only going to give them 2 stars or better. So I'll kind of do that at first, just so I can kind of see what's here, make my 1 stars, and then I start working. I don't rate my 3 and 4 stars yet. I'll do that at the end. But I do that first, get that out of the way. By the way, if you click on one of these, you look at metadata, you can see obviously the camera EXIF data is in there, and then all of my preset captions and everything is in there, because that I did in Photomechanic. So that gets imported with the sidecar XML file. So that all is there. So let's talk about adjustments now, because that's what I'm going to do next. In my adjustment tab here, what I've done is I have organized everything roughly in the order I like to do it, okay? I've got 3 tabs at the top that don't move. So when I slide up and down, those 3 tabs are always there. One is a histogram. So if I need to see a histogram on an image, I can just open that up. I usually keep it closed. Styles and presets, we'll talk about in a minute. That's that Luke style. And then layers and masks. If you have worked in Capture One, you know how these work. I don't know if Lightroom has anything similar, but it's very much like Photoshop's layers, where you can have adjustment layers on top of your background layer, and then use it to kind of do localized adjustments. That's how I use these layers. So I keep that closed up most of the time. And then these boxes, these little bricks, I love it because you can organize these however you want. You can put them in any order you want. You can take them from different tabs. Over the years, this is kind of where I'm at right now, and this is my most efficient way to use this. So I've got rotation and flip at the top. That is usually what I'll start with, where I, if a horizon needs to be straightened out, I'll do that first. Then I have crop. That's to crop the image. White balance, exposure, vignette. High dynamic range, I really like, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. Clarity, I almost never use, but I have it there if I need it. Dehaze, another one. At our shows, at most concerts, they have hazers on that, you know, the smoke that's on the stage. Sometimes if it's a little too much on the subject, I might try to dehaze it a little bit. You got to be careful not to overdo that. And then 3 at the bottom that I almost never use. Levels, just in case I want to look at my levels and make an adjustment that way. The color editor, sometimes I'll use that if there's a particular color I want to adjust. And then retouch faces is brand new with Capture One. I've never used it. I honestly haven't played around with it yet. On a concert, I'm never going to use it. I don't worry about retouching at a concert. If on a portrait, something like that, I might do it. It depends on what the image is and who it's for. And if it's more of a fashion image and I want to do some retouching here, it's kind of nice to have that option. By the way, while I've got you for a second, let me just mention that if this video is helping you out and you do enjoy videos like this, go ahead and hit that like button. Please subscribe to Adorama's YouTube channel if you're not already, and go ahead and tap that bell icon so you'll be notified when new episodes go live from me and all the other hosts here on Adorama TV. It does really help us out and lets us know you want more videos like this one. Also, if you've got your own photography questions and that you want me to answer, you know what to do. Just go to askdavidbergman.com, fill out the form on that site. I just might pick your question to answer here on a future show. Okay, back to the video. That's how I have my adjustment panel set up. Let's talk about style presets. So when you have got an image, something that you do with every single image, you can set that as a preset and just apply it globally to everything, which is really a nice time saver. Not only can you have adjustments that change, but also layers. These adjustment layers, you can do layers on your images. So I take huge advantage of that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's just pick a random image here. Let's go with this one. So yeah, so this is Luke and his wife Nicole walking to the stage. They look nice and cute. I have created this Luke adjustment preset. So if I go ahead and click that, I can then close that up because I don't need to see it anymore. Let me tell you what this adjustment does for me, and yours is going to be different, but let me just show you what it does for me. The first thing is I apply a vignette to almost every image. I'm old school. I kind of like a little darkening around the edges. I got to try not to overdo it. I'm sure I have overdone it, but now you're going to look at every one of my images and you're going to see that vignette. But just a little bit of darkening on the edges, it just helps bring your eye towards into the meat of the photograph. So in most cases, I'm going to have a vignette. So this preset has a -2 vignette on it. And with that, the whole image tends to get a little darker. So I've added a little 0.5 exposure bump. Whoops, too much. So a little 0.5 exposure dump just to bring the image back up. That's fine. That gets applied to every image. I can go ahead and come here and select all and take my my styles and preset and hit Luke, and it's going to apply that. You could see that every image just kind of has that little vignette and a little brightness. That's fine. What's more important and what's a biggest time saver for me is in that Luke preset, I also have a whole bunch of layers. And these layers, if you've never used layers before, again, these are like adjustment layers in Photoshop. So I have these layers that I use occasionally, and they're on every image. By themselves, they don't do anything, but they're ready to go if I want to do something. So let's go back to this image of Luke and Nicole, okay? Now, this high dynamic range brick, I really like because what it does is brings down the brightest parts of the image. Doesn't bring down, it's not like your exposure slider, just the very, very brightest part, it's gonna darken. The very white, like blown out white, it's gonna bring it back down. And then the shadow one does the opposite. The darkest parts, it's gonna lighten them up a little bit. So a picture like this, it's a lot of darkness. The fencing that they're walking by is really dark. So I would normally, on my image layer, which is the entire global image, I might bring up the shadow on this just to bring some detail into the sides, okay? That would be a normal thing that I would do. However, my issue with the shadow adjustment, I just don't like what it does to faces. The skin gets weird. It gets a little too grungy for me. I don't like that. So I do not apply shadow globally. Let's bring that back to 0. What I do is I have my what I call my light and shadow adjustment layer on here. And if you see it right here, when I click it on, it does apply that shadow. It lightens it up. In this case, I have it at 40. I can adjust it if I want. But then because it's a layer, I can brush it in or out. So if you look at the layer mask, it's right now that layer, that shadow layer is on the whole image. But I can go ahead and hit E and I can brush out what I want. So let me hide that mask and I can brush it out of Luke and his shirt. You can see his shirt is getting back dark again. And Nicole, her legs, his arms. I just don't like it on humans, right? On skin. So now if we look at my adjustment layer, the layer mask, you can see it's only applying to the outside and not applying to them. So that then gives them back their real skin tone. It doesn't make it look funky, but I've lightened up that outside a little bit. So that's my light and shadow layer. Let me tell you about my other layers here. Darken is kind of what it sounds like, but it's not an exposure darken. It doesn't darken the whole thing. Let's look at this picture, for example. So here, this is not uncommon where I've got the spotlight really blown out. If I was working on this picture, I'd first do a crop. It probably could bring it down because it's a lot of dead space up there. So I've cropped it like that. I'm gonna do my overall exposure because it's a little overexposed. So let's maybe go like that, right? But then this area on the stage where the spotlight is hitting, it's too bright. It just pulls your eye away. So I'll go ahead and click on my darken layer and then bring up a brush, and then I can brush it in just on that spotlight area. And I can adjust it, of course. I can darken it down a little bit. I can bring it up if I want. So it just allows me to apply it only where I want, which that gives me the most control. So that's darken. What else do I have here? I have a clarity layer. If I want to apply clarity, again, I almost never apply clarity. Sometimes it looks good on crowds of people to apply a little bit of clarity. You just don't want to overdo it. And then my lighten brush is, so for example, this picture here, this is Alex Warren and Luke backstage before the show, working on a song. Alex Warren does that great song, Ordinary. He was a surprise guest who came out. So this picture, I'll crop it first. I'll do my overall exposure. Alex's face looks great. Luke's a little dark just because where the light is hitting him. This is the available light in the room. So I'll go ahead to my lighten brush, hit B for brush, and I'll just click him right there. And it just brings him up a little bit. Now, sometimes it's overdone just a tad. So I might bring it down a little bit so it looks natural. That's just 0.87 instead of 1. And there you go. That makes a big difference. If I turn it off, turn it on, right? It's almost unnoticeable unless you see the before and after. So that's my hope, is that you really don't even notice it. But I don't have to go in and create a new layer, put the brightness on it, then draw it in for every single image. My goal is just to go through each image as quickly as possible. And if I spend, more than 30 seconds on each one, then there's something wrong. I mean, I really shouldn't have to do that for each image. It's just these can go so quickly. This needs the color's a little off, so I might do that. I'm gonna probably crop it up a little bit to get rid of the guy in the background. Sorry, buddy. Do that. That's pretty good. I might lower the contrast a little bit on that, bring back a little more vignette. This one, boom, our CMA Touring Award. We won Crew of the Year last year, so I've been doing a picture at every venue of the trophy, which is really kind of just a little fun thing we're doing internally. But anyway, that's what I'm gonna do for each image. I'm gonna go through one at a time. It's not gonna take me that long. 100 images, I can get through in 30, 45 minutes, right? And I'm gonna do every image that way, right? Until I get all the way to the end. And once I'm done, every image is done. It's toned, it's ready to go. Then all I have to do, I will sometimes at this point, when I get around to it, really it's just for myself, do my 3 and 4 stars. So like now that I've seen every picture and toned them up, if there's a picture I really like, that I think is really good, I'll make it a 3-star. And if it's really, really, really good, I'll make it a 4-star. I have a thing, I don't do 5 stars. I feel like I always have to have something else to achieve. And like if I ever do a 5-star, make a 5-star picture, I'm gonna retire. I don't know. But I don't need that much variation in stars. So I do 3 and 4 stars on those images. The advantage of that is that I know that my 4 stars are my best images. Then I can just look at, if I need to pull like, some of my best Luke photos, I can just look at my 4 stars all across all the albums. So in the whole library, I can just pull up my 4 stars. So that makes it easy to find my best of images too. So I'll go through and do that. And then I'll just start to export. And the way I do that is I put keywords on a lot of these images. So because I deliver different sets of images to different groups of people, I have the entire set goes to Luke and management, and they have a set of everything. And then, these final 100 images. And then I also deliver images to each band member. So pictures just of them that maybe it's too many to, I don't have to, we're not going to post 12 pictures of each band member. But I still want those guys to have those pictures. So I'll do a subset of each band member. And then I also do a subset for social media. So I give 30 or 40 images to our social media team, and then they can pick the 10 or 20 that they want to post from that. So I use keywords to do that in Capture One. So I'll come through here. This is where my metadata tab comes in. And you can see I've got catalog keywords of each band member all ready to go. So if, Kurt's in this photo, so I'll click it, I'll click Kurt, and it'll put the keyword. Kurt's in this photo, I'll click Kurt, and let's find another Kurt just for fun. There's Kurt one, and we'll click Kurt again. So I'll go ahead and do that with every single image, making sure I tag keyword the right people and the right things. And then when I go to export, I can go to my library, and here in my filters, I've got keywords, and there you can see Kurt, there's 3 pictures, and there are those 3 pictures. So then I can just highlight those all, do export, and save them out as a JPEG wherever I want to. So, and what I do, if you saw in the other video, I have my organized folder with everything from that one shoot. I start with this template, this Luke folder template. And what I do for each show is I just make a copy of it. I can just option drag it. It makes a copy, and I'll call it whatever, in this case, what did I call it? 2025, 1231, ask DB demo, right? If I can type, and then I'll open that up. And when I export, I can go, in this case, I've got all my folders in here, right? My raw, my selects, my raw finals, my raw first edit, 4 socials, finals for the all access group, 2 email. In here, I've got airdrop. Those are ones that I'm going to airdrop to myself just to have on my phone. Band, I've got all the band members already in there, and crew, some pictures that I send to our crew. So that's all ready to go. These are all time-saving measures, just so I don't have to do the same process over and over again. So that's how I do it. At the end of that, I'm going to have one nice little folder with all the images. I've got my entire catalog all organized. I can always go back to any show that I want. Very easy to find. Every image has been toned already. Let's talk about noise reduction, because John asked about that. So let's take a picture like this one, for example, okay? So this one, the sky is really dark, right? So let's work on this picture. So I start with exposure. It probably needs a little bit of a crop, not much. We'll go like that. Luke's pants are a little blown out. I'm gonna raise the full exposure just a tad. His pants are a little blown out. I'm gonna use my darken brush just to darken those to bring some detail back. And then I'd like to bring up this crowd a little bit. They're awfully dark. Oh, while I'm in darken, now that I see down here, I've got some bright photographer lenses. Come on, guys, you're killing me. Nah, just kidding, love you guys. I stay out of the local photographers' way so they can get good pictures at the beginning of the show. And then I'll go ahead and use my light and shadow because there's a lot of darkness here in the sky. So if I click that, it brightens up the whole thing. Let's bring it up even a little bit more. I like what it does to the crowd, and it gives me a little bit of sky. I am going to brush out Luke on that light and shadow, and maybe this stage here as well, because I don't want it to mess with his skin. And you can see here, we've got some sky here. That was really underexposed because I was exposing for the stage. But if you look at the sky, let's bring it in here. There's a lot of noise in there. That's understandable. I'm shooting at a high ISO. Let's see what ISO I'm at. I am at, where is it? I'm at 6400, which isn't too high, but this was very underexposed. And it's I lighten it in post, it's going to have noise in it. So I want to get rid of that noise. Well, if you watched my noise reduction video, I generally don't use noise reduction software too often. This picture, I could post it this big on Instagram and nobody would care about the noise. However, if I really wanted to look its best, I can apply some noise reduction. Now, for the last year or so, a few years, Photoshop has had an AI denoise that works really, really well. And you could bring a RAW file into there and then output a new RAW file, a new DNG, not a CR3, an original Canon file, but a DNG. And then you could then bring that into Capture One and work on it there. They've changed that now. Lightroom and Photoshop now have a built-in slider for that AI denoise, which is awesome. So if you're using Lightroom, be happy. That's a good thing. You don't have to do any round tripping. You don't have to create a new file. However, for people like me that are using Capture One, I liked having that new file. So now I don't. So I'm hoping Capture One eventually has a good slider with an AI denoise. I heard a rumor they're working on it. I read that. I don't know if that's true, but hopefully one day soon they'll have that. Until then, I still need to round trip it into another program. I've been playing with DXO's PureRAW, which works really, really well. So in this case, I'm gonna round trip it into PureRAW. It's really easy to do. I don't have to like manage separate files because it all is handled internally. So watch this. So I'm gonna control click this file. If I did edit with, it would create a new TIFF file. In my case, I'd do a 16-bit TIFF and you would open that in something else. I don't wanna do that. I wanna work on the RAW file. Actually, that's the only kind of file that PureRAW will take. It wants a RAW file. So I'm gonna do open with. That's gonna open the original RAW file in the DXO software. Now, yes, I'm gonna lose all of my progress that I just did, all of my editing that I just did, but don't worry about it. I'm gonna fix that. So we're gonna go open with, and we're gonna do PureRAW. I like to do this at the end of the process, once I know that it needs noise reduction, because I've lightened and darkened. So I'm gonna do it at that point. I know common wisdom is to do noise reduction at the beginning. That's when you're working all in the same program. You should do it first because then your edits only apply to that particular file or that, with all the noise reduction on it. But in this case, I know that my image needs it. So I'm gonna go ahead and process with preview. And I already have my everything preset here. I really don't change this much. If I really wanted to, I could. You can see how dark that sky is. We really can't see anything, but it's still gonna do what I need. If I do process now, it's gonna work on, it's just gonna take a few seconds. And remember, this is the original RAW file. When that is done, I'm going to then bring it back into Capture One. Now, with Photoshop, I used to have to save that out somewhere and then import it into Capture One. It was an extra little step, and then I would just delete it off my desktop. In this case, it has this nice export to, and I just change that to Capture One, do export, and then it's going to bring me to my import dialog in Capture One with that new DNG file. I'm going to select it, do import, and you'll see in a second here. Now we have our two files, okay? Now, yes, there's no adjustments to this DNG, but that's easy to fix. I just go back to my RAW file, do Shift-Command-C for copy, and then go into my new one, do Shift-Command-V for paste, and voila. Now I have all of my settings there. So I have found DNG files are not the same as the original RAW file, so they're not always exactly. I have found they're a little bit brighter than the same settings. Here's my RAW, here's the DNG. All I have to do is bring down the exposure, usually about a half a stop. And I'm pretty much back now. The two files are pretty much the same, right? So, and now if you go ahead and look at the sky, here it is in the original RAW. I don't know how well you can see that on YouTube, but it's pretty noisy. And then boom, there's the DXO PureRAW version. Now we've got some spots in here. That's usually from the underexposure. There could be some things in the air. I don't know. All I have to do is go up here into my healing mask. And I don't even have to select a point. It does it automatically. I just have to click on each one of those. And 99% of the time, it does an amazing job. And boom, those are all gone. And there's my picture. And I don't really have to do anything else to it. So as I'm going along through my pictures, if one of them really needs noise reduction, I will round trip it into PureRAW. And that has worked great. The other thing I will do is this by default doesn't have any stars, the new image. So I'll make that a 2-star. And my original, I'll make a 0-star. Because again, when I export, I usually go here and do show me only the 2 stars or better. And now I only have the correct file. I don't want to accidentally export that original file without the noise reduction. It's still in my library. I still have it if I need it. But if I, just for export purposes, I don't want to see it. So there you go. That's my workflow. Once I'm done, I have that nice folder with everything in it. I can upload the files where they need to go. I use Photoshelter. Each one of those band members, each the social media team, the management team, they all have their own folder within Photoshelter. So they have I upload to each folder, and then they log in with their own username and password, and they only see the images that I put in each one of those folders. So it's a really nice way to deliver images. I've been using that for years. So that's how I do it. John, I hope that helps everyone else out there. What do you all think? Is your workflow anything like mine? Is this like way off base, or is this pretty close? Are you going to change anything in your own workflow to become more efficient after this? Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you also check out my video about culling your images down to only the best ones using Photo Mechanic. It's a great program that's going to save you a lot of time. Thanks so much for watching Adorama TV, and I'll see you next time right here on Ask David Bergman.